Let us look at where all this anxiety, stress, tension, apprehension, all these are coming from. Most of them, they come from what is called as fear. Fear, fear. Now, your child falls sick and you're worried because you have a fear that something might happen to him. Your spouse may be late from work. You're anxious because you have a fear that he might have met with an accident. You've given a test and you're waiting for the results and you're in tension. This could be because of your fear of a failure or because of a fear of a negative report that might come. You avoid giving tax and you get stressed because you have the fear of being caught. So, fear is the basis of most of our mental agony. Now that we know that fear is the basis of all these emotions, let us now try to explore what is this fear. Now, my question to all of you is, were you born with fear? So, the way we stand as on today, the World Health Organization has predicted that by 2045, there is going to be a mental pandemic. As on today, if you look at the statistics in the US, 1 out of every 3 teenage girls are depressed. They are on prescription medication. The Surgeon General of US has gone on to state that every other person in the US is already feeling lonely. Every other person. I want you to understand this. If you look at the other scenario, you also find that the suicidal rates have hit the peak. Can you imagine that the maximum number of suicides have happened in the young children between the age of 10 and 14? Can you imagine such tender minds taking the decision to end this life and commit suicide? Now, this is the kind of scenario that we have got today. Now, at this juncture, I always ask people, how happy and joyful were you when you were 6 years old? You know, when you're 6 years old, you would be all over the place. You would be so happy. You would be jumping, running. Somebody had to really beat you up and make you sit down. We would be all over the place. We would be so joyful. Now, if you're at 6 years, you were so joyful. If you're 30, you should be 5 times more joyful. If you're 60, you should be 10 times more joyful. My question to you is, are you at least as joyful as when you were 6 years old? No, we are not. So, are we headed in the right direction or are we headed in the wrong direction? This is something all of us need to think about. We are headed definitely in the right direction in terms of comfort, conveniences, science, technology, but in terms of happiness, we are definitely not headed in the right direction. So, now coming back to the mental mental disorders are essentially to do with emotions that happen within our body, like fear, anxiety, stress, tension, feeling low, feeling lonely, wanting to harm yourself, wanting to harm others. You know, these kind of feelings and emotions are what makes a mental disease. Now, these emotions and feelings that we go through can be fashionably diagnosed by the medical science as depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, split personality, or whatever. There are many terms, many fashionable terms which are given. But whatever is your diagnosis, what you feel is more or less whatever emotions I have mentioned below. FAST is what I normally says: fast, fear, anxiety, stress, and tension. These are mostly what comes under it. The basic thing is that you are not happy and you are not joyful. That is what gave rise to a lot of negative emotions. We need to understand that all the above that happens in our body happens because of an imbalance in the chemicals that happens in the body. Are you aware that the human body is the biggest chemical factory in the world? All our activities like emotion, sleep, anger, happiness, everything is controlled by chemicals. So now when you go to the doctor and you explain to him all that you feel, he will give you a chemical to fix that imbalance and you will feel better. Or you go to a therapist and he will guide and help you to tide over whatever situation that you are going through. But what we need to understand here is that whatever you're feeling and whatever is being fixed by the doctor or the therapist is only the effect. That is why you see most of the psychiatric cases can be only fixed by chemicals, but they cannot be cured. Cure can happen only if you know the cause and fix it. not just the effect. Now, medical science definitely understands that mental illness happens because of an imbalance in the chemicals, and they're able to fix it with chemicals. But why this imbalance of chemicals happens in the body, the medical science does not know. So when they don't know the cause, they cannot cure you also. So there is a need for us to look beyond medicine for why these imbalances are happening. So today let's explore beyond medicine why these imbalances happen in our body. Where all these negative emotions are coming from. Let us look at where all this anxiety, stress, tension, apprehension, all these are coming from. Most of them, they come from what is called as fear. Fear, fear. Now, your child falls sick and you're worried because you have a fear that something might happen to him. Your spouse may be late from work. You're anxious because you have a fear that he might have met with an accident. You've given a test and you're waiting for the results and your intention. This could be because of your fear of a failure or because of a fear of a negative report that might come. You avoid giving tax and you get stressed because you have the fear of being caught. So fear is the basis of most of our mental agony. Now that we know that fear is the basis of all these emotions, let us now try to explore what is this fear. Now, my question to all of you is, were you born with fear? No. A little child is capable of playing with a very poisonous snake. It can play with it. It can just take it, pull it, do it. It doesn't care. It can do any dangerous activities because it does not know fear. We are all born without fear. Fear is inculcated into us as we grow up. We are taught what is fear. Now, here is where I normally talk about something that is very dear to me. Most of the religions and cultures, they talk about the fact that there is a God in a child, which means you go, however stressed you are, you go play with a child, and then you naturally begin to feel happy. You smile at the child. You forget your stress. You forget your worries. This is because the child is non-judgmental. When we say that there is God in a child, what it means that the child is non-judgmental. The child does not know what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. The child will look at a thief and a priest with the same intensity of love. The child does not differentiate. That is when you come into the picture and you start teaching the child what is right, what is wrong, who is good, who is bad. And slowly the God in the child goes into the background. The artificial intelligence of the child takes over. That means whatever the child is collecting or gathering through its five senses, it gathers, it takes over and runs our life. So the God is there in the child. God is there in each one of us, but it goes into the background. It does not function. We function through the artificial intelligence of our mind. The biggest mistake that we are doing today with our children is teaching them what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. I know it is very difficult for us to not to teach our children because it's very natural for all adults to teach something. We are all the time trying to teach something. Whoever it is, whether even if it is not your kid, you're trying to teach something to the kid. If you can't help teaching, it's okay. But at least teach them what has worked for you. Don't teach them what you have just gathered. What has worked for you, you teach them. Now, I often see mothers teaching their young daughters how to be with their mother-in-laws. They're all the time telling them, be like this with your mother-in-law, do this with your mother-in-law, be like this. My question to you is, has it worked for you? Are you in a good space with your mother-in-law? If you are in a good space, it's fair enough. But are you in a good space? How can what is right for you and your mother-in-law be right for your daughter and her mother-in-law? So let's try not to teach our kids anything. Let them form their own opinions. Let them know what is right, what is wrong. What is right and wrong for your generation may not be right and wrong for their generation. But you're going on teaching them and their senses are all the time gathering all that we teach. You need to understand that when the mother, father, or the close family teaches them, it goes into the subconsciousness of the child without any filtration. So stop teaching the child. If you stop teaching the child, there will be a lot of changes that can happen. The other dimension or the other cause that we need to look at why mental diseases happen is to identify between what is real and what is Maya or illusion. I know all of you have heard about a lot of spiritual people talking about what is this? It is all Maya. There is no you, there is no me, there is no world, there is no this. And you're all confused. Is it real? Is it Maya? So there's a lot of confusion between this statement and the way it is understood. So in order to understand what is Maya or illusion, let us first try to understand what is truth or real. I am a father to my son. It is real. He is my son. I am his father. This is real. This cannot change. Truth or real cannot change. It is stagnant. It will be same. The five elements that you see, the earth that you see, the water that you see, the fire that you see, the air that you experience, these are all real. They cannot change. All the relationships that we have in this world is Maya. Now, you fall in love with somebody, you're so much in love that you want to be with that person all the time, to an extent that you cannot live without that person. There's so much of love. Then you carry on in life, then you have a fight. Slowly that love decreases. Then you have another fight. That love changes into a hatred. Look at the way the feelings is changing. Then it becomes into an hatred. Then you have more fights. Then you don't want to stand the sight of each other. You have more fight. You're ready to kill each other. Yes? It is the same person. It is the same man or it's the same woman that you fell in love with. You felt so much of love. Today you want to kill that person. Now this change, if a change happens in a relationship, this is called as Maya. The change happens depending upon what you feel about that person in your head at that point of time. If your feelings can change for the same person at different times, isn't it Maya? If you have the ability or if you're aware as to what is Maya in my life and what is not Maya in my life, then your intelligence will take over and help you to distinguish between both of them. Once you're able to figure out that it is Maya, the fight that I'm having, the uncertainty that I'm having, the tragedy that I'm feeling, everything is Maya, then you know that there is no significance to it. So there is a need for you to understand the difference between Maya and illusion. The next cause of a mental disease is domestic conflicts that happen. So in order to explain to you the domestic conflict, let me take the most basic conflict that happened between a partner. The case of the toilet seat, whether it should be up or whether it should be down. Now, when I talk about a couple today, in today's world, a couple would mean two men, two women, men and a woman. It can be anything. So one of the partner feels that the toilet seat should be down because it is aesthetically appealing. It will not smell. It is the way it is. But the other partner feels that the toilet should be up because it is easier. It is convenient. Anyway, there is water, so no smell will happen. So both of them in their core feel that it should be down, one feels it should be up. Now, the problem is when you try to tell your partner to do it the way you want it to be. What you feel is right, you're telling your partner to follow. Out of sheer love for you, the partner will follow. But every time he goes to the toilet and he tries to shut it, his core says, shutting is not the right thing. The right thing to do would be to leave it open, but he does it against his core belief. Now, we constantly talk about what stress is. Stress is very simply defined as anything that you do on a regular basis against your wish or against what you feel is not the right thing to do. That is stress. So constantly, this is the most basic example that I've given you of a domestic conflict. There are so many things that you want your partner to do it the way you think is the right way to do. That is where the conflict happens. Think about every incident that happens in your house between the couples and see where the friction is. This is when you ask somebody to do it the way you think is right. How can what you think is right be right for the other person? You have your own perspectives, you have your own intelligence, you have your own way of how you are brought up, how you've been taught about what is right and wrong. So this conflict is something that has to be avoided. The next thing to understand along with this domestic conflict is the difference between masculine and feminine. Let me try and explain to you. Masculine does not mean men. Feminine does not mean female. It is a very wrong concept. I'm not talking about male and female here. I'm talking about masculine features and feminine features. Masculine and feminine are traits that we have, that we are born with. So we all have masculine and femininity within us. It is just the proportion that is different. We need to understand this. So if you are mostly a masculine personality, your core would only think about what is right and what is wrong, what is useful. What is right and what is useful, or what is useful. In short, the masculine will only look at what is useful. The feminine always looks at everything with compassion, with love, with sensitiveness. So you're able to differentiate, you're able to identify men with more feminine features. If you look at some of them, they take care of the house so beautifully, they are so sensitive, they take care of the kids, they cook. Or you look at a female who has got more masculine features. She's more a provider for the house. She's more aggressive in the relationship. It is very important. You can Google and find out masculine features, feminine features. It is very important for all of us to know what it is so that we are able to identify our partner's traits. We know, okay, He's behaving such a way because he's got more of masculinity in him, more of femininity in him. It is very important. So when we become aware of the basic nature of our spouse, that awareness will take away a lot of domestic conflicts. At this point, I must also talk about women. Women are very, very kind people, but unfortunately, they are kind to everybody else in the world, but unfortunately, they are not kind to themselves. Right from the childhood, they work for their siblings or their parents, then they get married, then it is the husband, the children, the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, then the grandchildren. By the time they turn 40, 50, they turn back and see, what have I done for myself? And that is when they realize that they have not done anything for themselves. And then they get destroyed. So a woman has to prioritize herself right in the beginning of her life.